My name is Colleen Shea, a 32-year-old freelance accountant from Fort Collins. If you've ever hit rock bottom and had to claw your way back, you might find pieces of yourself in my story. When I was 8 months pregnant, I was still trying to rebuild after the devastating loss of my boyfriend in a fatal car accident. That pain never fades. It lingers like an open wound, and every morning feels like another battle just to keep breathing. My body ached, not just from pregnancy, but from the crushing weight of grief heavier than the child growing inside me. In search of comfort, I moved back to my parents' quiet suburban home, hoping to find emotional support during the darkest time of my life. That house, the one I once called my safe haven, was actually under my name on the mortgage. Each month, I poured thousands into payments just to keep it from foreclosure. I needed a stable space, a refuge to rest and prepare for the baby who had become my last hope. But instead of love, I was met with betrayal. My sister, a social media influencer obsessed with her live streams, suddenly returned and demanded to take over my room for her career. My parents, blind to my pain, sided with her without hesitation. And then came the moment that shattered my heart. They tossed all my things onto the front lawn, abandoning me, 8 months pregnant with nowhere to go. I could have begged, but instead I chose to fight back in a way they would never forget. I stopped paying the mortgage and silently watched that house crumble piece by piece. Before I take you further into what happened, tell me, what time is it where you're watching from and which city are you in? I want to know how far my story reaches. Growing up in our Fort Collins home, my sister Erin always got everything she wanted. Her fiery personality filled every room, and my parents couldn't look away. She had a gift for commanding attention, whether charming neighbors or dazzling at school events. Meanwhile, I slipped into the background, the quiet older sister who never quite measured up. My parents never said it out loud, but their eyes told me I wasn't enough. They'd gush over Erin's art, her soccer goals, her every success, while my straight-A report cards barely earned a nod. It felt like I was invisible in my own home. I'll never forget the summer I was 12. I'd saved up for a new sketchbook after weeks of babysitting, dreaming of becoming an artist. When I proudly showed it to Mom, Erin, jealous as always, accidentally spilled paint all over it. My work, my hours of effort ruined in seconds. Tears streamed down my face as I begged my parents to do something. Dad just shrugged, saying, "She's young. She didn't mean it." Mom added, "Don't make a big deal out of it. No apology. No consequences." Erin smirked, knowing she'd won again. That wasn't the only time. She'd break my things, interrupt my studies, anything to keep the spotlight. Each moment carved another crack in our relationship until I could barely stand being near her. By high school, I'd had enough. She'd sneak into my room, steal my clothes, ruin them, and every time my parents told me to be more understanding. I felt like a stranger in my own family, forever compared to her effortless charm. So when I got accepted to college in Denver, I didn't hesitate. I packed my bags and left, desperate to escape her shadow. College was freedom, a place where I could finally exist as me, not Erin's sister. I studied accounting, built my freelance career, and learned to stand on my own. Years later, when my boyfriend died, I had no choice but to return home. I was 32, pregnant and broken. The grief consumed me. Every night I'd lie awake, missing his laughter, his voice. With a baby on the way and bills piling up, I couldn't afford our apartment anymore. Moving back with my parents seemed like my only lifeline. I hoped they'd finally see how much I needed them. I even took over the mortgage payments for their house, thinking maybe it would earn their respect, or their love. But deep down, I feared the same pattern would repeat, that Erin's shadow would once again eclipse my life. Then one sunny afternoon, I heard the familiar sound of Erin's car in the driveway. Her SUV gleamed, packed with designer luggage. She strutted into the house like she owned it, phone in hand, already live streaming her homecoming. I watched from my window, anxiety tightening my chest. At 8 months pregnant, I was barely hanging on, juggling freelance work to keep up with the mortgage. I craved peace and quiet before my baby arrived. But Erin's arrival spelled chaos. That evening at dinner, she dropped her bombshell. "I need your room for my streaming setup. It has the best lighting," she said, flipping her hair as her phone recorded. I froze mid-bite, stunned. That room wasn't just a bedroom. It was my workspace, my sanctuary. It was where I managed client accounts, where I held myself together through grief. But Erin didn't care. She kept talking about her brand, her sponsors, her followers. Completely blind to my struggle, I turned to Dad, hoping for support. He nodded at her. She's got a point. Her career's taking off. We should support her. Mom chimed in. It's just a room, honey. You can work in the living room. My jaw clenched. They knew I was pregnant, grieving, and keeping their house afloat, yet they dismissed me like an inconvenience. I swallowed my anger to avoid another fight. Later that night, I found Erin scrolling through her phone in the hallway. She looked up with a smirk. You're not really going to hog that room, are you? You're kind of a burden here, waddling around taking up space. Her words sliced deep. I wanted to scream to remind her that I was the reason this roof still existed. But I stayed calm. I need that room to work, Erin. I'm not giving it up. She rolled her eyes. Whatever. You'll figure it out. The next morning I tried reasoning with Mom. Mom, I'm paying the mortgage, I said steadily. I need my room to work and prepare for the baby. She barely looked up from her coffee. Erin's got a lot on her plate. You'll manage. I turned to Dad. I'm 8 months pregnant. I need a quiet space. He sighed. We're just trying to help your sister succeed. You're strong, you'll be fine. Their indifference stung worse than words. Nights became sleepless, my mind racing as my baby kicked. Every attempt to compromise failed. Erin refused to share the space, calling the basement bad for her aesthetic. My parents backed her up, acting like my needs didn't matter. By the end of that week, the house felt like a war zone. Erin's live streams echoed through the walls, her laughter, her music, her fans' cheers. Her ring lights glared from the living room, flooding the house with harsh white light. I tried to work from the kitchen, but her noise drowned out my concentration. I needed quiet to finish client work, to keep up with the payments. But Erin didn't care. She laughed into her camera while my world quietly collapsed. One night, my parents called me to the dining table. Dad's tone was firm. Erin's career is at a critical stage. She needs your room to keep growing. Mom nodded. It's temporary. You can work anywhere. I was speechless. I was the one paying for the house, grieving, carrying a child, and somehow I was the burden. Dad, Mom, I said, voice trembling but steady. I lost my partner. I'm raising his child. I need my room to work and rest. This isn't fair. They exchanged blank glances. Erin overheard and stormed in, eyes blazing. You're such a failure, she snapped, clinging to that room like it's your life. My career actually matters. Her words tore through me, but I kept my composure. Erin, I need that room. I'm not giving it up. She flipped her hair and muttered, You'll regret this. The next morning Dad pulled me aside. If you can't cooperate, we can't keep supporting you, he said coldly. You're living here rent-free, be reasonable. I froze. Rent-free? I'd been paying $2,000 a month in mortgage payments. Mom, I pleaded. I'm 8 months pregnant. I just need stability. She sighed. Erin's under a lot of pressure. You're strong, you'll handle it. Their words felt like betrayal. Erin's noise only grew worse, her lights spilling into my room, her laughter echoing down the hallway. I missed deadlines, lost clients, and still they blamed me. One morning I confronted her. Erin, your noise is destroying my work. Please keep it down. She laughed. Get over yourself. My followers loved the energy. That was the moment I knew. No one in that house cared. Later I stood in the kitchen trembling. Dad, Mom, I'm the one paying for this home, I said. I need my room to survive. Dad shook his head. Erin's building something big. Mom added, Don't be selfish. That was it. The last thread of hope snapped. I went silent, too tired to argue anymore. Deep down I knew something had to change. Then one rainy morning I stepped outside and froze. My suitcases sat in the front yard. Clothes, books, everything I owned thrown out like trash. To a cramped rental after losing the house. My dad's warehouse shifts and my mom's extra hours barely covered their bills, let alone Erin's leftover debts. They'd call, sometimes leaving messages about wanting to see Ethan, but I never responded. Their choice to prioritize Erin over me, even when I was pregnant and paying their mortgage, had broken. I wanted something lasting, something that couldn't be taken from me again. I held no anger toward my family, but I knew I couldn't allow them back into my life. To rebuild my sense of belonging, I joined a single mothers group in Fort Collins. Walking into that first meeting was intimidating, but the women greeted me with warmth and understanding. Over coffee, we traded stories, laughed about sleepless nights, and exchanged budgeting tricks. That's where I met Sarah, a nurse with a toddler, who quickly became a close friend. She had weathered her own storms, and our shared determination to create better lives for our children drew us together. The group became my refuge, a place where I felt accepted, not evaluated. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who valued me for who I was, not for what I could provide. Looking back now, I realize I learned to fight for my self-worth, even when it was painful. My family's choice to prioritize Aaron's shallow fame over my sacrifices taught me a hard truth. I could never depend on others to define my value. I had endured loss, betrayal, and loneliness, but I rose from it stronger, shaping a future for Ethan on my own terms. Independence stopped being just survival, it became freedom. Standing up for my worth meant walking away from anyone who refused to see it. And that decision gave me the power to truly begin again, the mother Ethan needed. Thank you for listening. Share your thoughts below.